Okay, so I'm going to do an updated videos for the mushroom bloom shed. The old one was more of a test video, I'll take that down. And we've had some additional stuff going on with the mushrooms. They've just been put into fruit and put into bloom, if you can see there. I'll do that on a separate bit, I'll go into that. So I'm just going to do the shed at the moment. The design I've done here is we've pretty much, it's sort of two grower chambers either side. You could scale this up to about 12 by 12, I think, maybe a little bit more. I wouldn't like to scale it down too much when I've done. I guess in an 8x4 shed you could use one chamber. But essentially I'm using the Yardmaster 10x6 tin shed. Good quality shed, it's all built. Quite difficult to put together. The instructions are terrible. Once you get it all together, they are pretty sturdy. They're just a normal garden shed. So if you can see these, it's made up of this corrugated tin and all the sides there, which is held together with these struts on the inside, kind of hold the outside panels together, if you can imagine that. I should do one from the outside as well, really. Which has been put on a normal garden patio, which was sort of levelled vaguely. It doesn't have to be perfect, really. And on top of that was put a membrane of essentially just building plastic, you know, it's nothing professional. And then on top of that went this thick lino. And then all the edges have been sealed with Gorilla Glue, because it's nice, it foams up quite well, it gets in the edges of the shed, and you know, underneath the lino there, and then just sealed all the way around with this external mold resistant sealant. And then over the top of that, maybe, you know, I'll do the same as I've done on this side. I'll put a little bit of tape just to make sure, but essentially there's no moisture getting through there. You know, it works quite well. Now the only exposed pieces of the shed left is this back panel, or this part of the back panel of the roof, because this is going to be probably an outtake, maybe an intake, I'm not sure yet. There's the gnome for the shed, say hi gnome. So obviously this is just a normal garden shed, so when it's all put together there are quite big gaps, which, you know, you can see the outside through, which are then sort of capped off with a corner piece, which is fine for a normal shed, but we don't want any of the outside getting in here, really. So on the larger holes, if you can see there, it's kind of like that down the edges. Unfortunately they're all covered up now, this insulation panelling, so you can't see properly, but essentially the same kind of things there. It's just the expandy, so it's like the plumber's foam, you know, use it for you do any pipe work and stuff and filling in gaps. It was kind of expensive, but unfortunately it was necessary, I guess. It's about £10 a tube. Got through about 4 tubes, I think. I probably didn't do it as well as I should have done there. Where all the metal joins, the edges and the corners and the bits of the roof, that's all sealed with this sealant again. It's just the stuff you get from Wilko's, but it's pretty good. And that's lovely. That keeps it all nice and sealed, nice and tight. But essentially what you then have is a big fridge, because obviously it's just a tin shed. Now, so what I did was I got this insulation panelling, which is just this isocyanate foam stuff. I don't know if you can see, it's like yellow kind of, I think it's isocyanate foam, I think that's what they call it. And then silver backing on either side. Some of the delivery for this stuff took a little longer than expected, unfortunately, but it got it eventually. Now I was originally going to go for the 20mm, because you see these struts, all you do is you cut your foam out, or you cut your insulation panelling out to a couple of mil wider than the actual gap, and then that sort of squeezes in a little bit and pops in nice and tight. You don't need anything to stick it in, it just, in fact with the bits where, if you can see where the screws are poking out, you get that on the panelling of the outside as well, coming on the inside, which kind of helps keep them in place, to be honest. It's kind of handy. Anyway, the gap between the struts is about 20mm, but the problem is 20mm insulation panelling really isn't going to, you don't want to make it warm in here, you don't want to keep it cold, you want to be able to control the temperature. So, you know, you want to keep a nice sort of even temperature, you don't want to be sending temperatures wildly either side of that. So the 20mm, the heat would have just gone out a bit too quickly, so I went for the 25mm, which does stick out a little bit, but it's a good job I did because we've had an awful lot of snow and rain and horrible weather lately, and it's held up just fine, like really well. Right, and so if you can see, pull this back a little bit. So that's the front door bit. So we've done sort of 2 grow chambers. If you can see, we've used this pressure treated kiln dried wood. You don't want any bugs and stuff getting there, so it's worth spending the extra little bit of money just to make sure of that. This could probably do with treating with something like a bit of wax. I'll get around to doing that at some point. So this is one of the finished chambers. If you can see, we've got these sort of rectangular boxes at either end for holding up the shelving, and same this side. This side's empty for now. I'm going to change things a little bit because the humidifiers on this side are probably going to have to sit on the top or down the sides, whereas on this side I might sort of build them in before I put the shelving on. I'm just not sure yet. Anyway, do the little airlock bit first. Now the problem is, because it's a shed, you have these 2 big front sliding doors. Oops, camera. Which just open straight into the shed, and that's really bad. You really don't want that. So what I've had to do is we've kind of, so you can either panic about that or you can use it to your advantage. So that's one of the reasons why we've done the rectangular boxes at the bottom there, and then they're covered in this. If you can see, oh there we go, you can see that fine. This sort of building plastic that they use on building sites for covering windows for makeshift purposes or whatever. I think it's about 700 gram weight. The 500 gram weight's fine, but I went for the slightly thicker, and that's kind of perfect really. So there's a plastic kind of window been put in at the end there, and then sealed along the top, so the door will slide into, difficult to show you that, you can see a little bit of light coming through there to the plastic. So the door slides across the front into, well, behind this plastic here. And same at this side, although the right hand side door has essentially been blocked up, but if you want to, you can unblock it if I need to, and do the same thing as I do on the left side there. I was going to have a normal door. I was going to put, if you can see, it's like a sort of a 4 foot by 2 foot chamber just in front of the sliding doors. I need to sort those electrics out at some point. But it turned out if I had the wood going down the edges there as well, it was all becoming a bit too bulky. So I decided to go with this kind of odd door that pulls upwards. It's not quite as awkward as it looks to use, but essentially, so what happens is, I'm going to squeeze in here. You walk into this little front chamber, which essentially is an airlock, really. If we've got the plastic across the top there as well. So the temperature in this part is loads lower than it is in the actual shed. I mean, it's pretty chilly in here actually. So you see down this side there, we've got the gaps. So eventually what we'll do is, at the moment I'm putting the HEPA filters together with the squirrel fans, and one of those will sit on the top, just there. And so the switch will be inside there, so when you open the shed, shut the doors behind you, turn on the fan, it'll suck all the bad air out and into the filter. And then possibly moments, that'll just be left on permanently. It's just an air intake for the shed. And again, I'm not sure, I might get changed, that might happen behind Mr. Gnome there. Not really sure about that. I might put the filter and the fan there, and then just use ducting all the way to the top. Sit on the plastic, or sit through the plastic there, which is probably a better way of doing it, because all the electrics are going to be running up this. See this central strut here is quite deep, so all the cabling will eventually run from there underneath the wood there to the back and up there. What else we've got here? And then we've got the table, which will be just in front of you when you walk in. So this will be for, I haven't got the stuff underneath it at the moment because I need to put a couple of shelves in. But under there is, you know, the pressure cooker will sit there. Your blower, you need a HEP air blower so you can do your substrate and stuff in here as well. So you should be able to do everything in here really, you know, by next week when I get all this that moved in. So a little bit about this, bit like the Spatz Cafe, you know, you'll be moving stuff around to do different jobs, but that, you know, that's the point of it. It's kind of a contained thing. On this side will probably be used for the substrate that's inoculating, essentially. And then when the fruiting blocks are ready to do, or ready to be put into fruit rather, or bloom, they'll be moved over into the other chamber. That's all I can think of for now. I did have the fan off, or the heater off last night for about 6 hours, and the temperature remained pretty constant. It didn't get chilly in here, it didn't get a fridge-like, it wasn't warm, but it wasn't uncomfortable, you know, it was kind of like a normal sort of room temperature, which is fine. I need to get the humidity going. So that'll be the next step, which is why I haven't moved all the other equipment in here yet, because I need to fit in the little blowers to sort of sit across the top and down the side. So we'll do another one for the actual mushrooms that are growing here.